Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. First Contact and Pride's Fall. On a crisp autumn morning at the Global Defense Initiative headquarters in Geneva, Admiral James Chin stared at the massive holographic display with a mix of awe and concern. Dozens of unknown vessels had just entered Earth's orbit, their sleek, crystalline designs unlike anything humanity had ever seen. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez reported, her fingers dancing across the control panel. The holographic display flickered, and a figure materialized that made everyone in the command center gasp. A tall, statuesque woman with silvery skin and iridescent hair stood before them, her bearing regal and intimidating. Her armor seemed to pulse with internal energy, and her eyes glowed with an otherworldly purple light. "People of Earth," she announced, her voice resonating with authority. "I am High Commander Lyra of the Valkyrie Dominion. Your world has been chosen for assessment. We have observed your primitive civilization and find it lacking." Her lips curled in disdain. "Particularly disappointing is your reliance on male leadership in military matters." Admiral Chen stepped forward, maintaining his composure. "High Commander, I am Admiral James Chin of the Global Defense Initiative. We welcome peaceful contact with Dash." "Silence," Lyra cut him off with a dismissive wave. "Your words mean nothing. In the Valkyrie Dominion, only women possess the strength and wisdom to lead armies. Your world's backwards approach ends today." The tension in the room was palpable as Lyra continued. "We offer you a choice: submit to Valkyrie rule, or face us in combat. To be sporting, we will allow you to select your finest warriors to face our champions. The outcome will determine Earth's fate." Admiral Chen's eyes narrowed. "And if we refuse? Then your major cities will be reduced to ash within the hour." Lyra's smile was cold. "You have 6 hours to select your champions. Choose wisely, if your male-dominated hierarchy is capable of wisdom." As the transmission ended, chaos erupted in the command center. General Maria Santos, one of Earth's top strategic commanders, stepped forward. "Admiral, they're baiting us. But they've also given us an opportunity." Chen nodded, already formulating a plan. "Get me Colonel David Torres and Major Li Wei. And contact Dr. Emily Parker at the Advanced Combat Systems Division. If we're going to face these Valkyries, we need our best." Within hours, the selected team assembled in the Underground Strategic Command Center. Colonel Torres, a decorated Special Forces veteran with a quiet intensity, stood beside Major Li, whose expertise in experimental weapons systems had revolutionized Earth's defense capabilities. Dr. Parker, brilliant and unconventional, was already analyzing Valkyrie technology readings. "Their tech is advanced," Dr. Parker reported, pushing her glasses up her nose, "but not unbeatable. Their energy signatures suggest they rely heavily on crystalline-based quantum systems. We might be able to use that. They expect us to respond with brute force," General Santos added, to prove their point about male aggression. "We need to show them something different." Colonel Torres spoke up, his voice measured. "They've revealed their biggest weakness already, their pride. They're so convinced of their superiority that they've given us time to prepare." Major Li nodded, pulling up tactical displays. "And their dismissal of male capabilities means they won't expect certain approaches. We can use that blind spot." As they strategized, more reports came in. The Valkyrie ships had maintained their positions, but had demonstrated their power by casually vaporizing a small uninhabited island as a warning. The message was clear: they could destroy Earth's military installations at will. Admiral Chen made his decision. "Colonel Torres, you'll lead the combat team. Major Li, coordinate with Dr. Parker on tactical advantages. General Santos, you'll be our primary strategist. We need to show these Valkyries that Earth's strength comes from unity, not division." The team worked through the night, preparing for the challenge ahead. Dr. Parker made breakthrough after breakthrough, discovering ways to detect weaknesses in Valkyrie energy shields. Major Li modified Earth's weapons to exploit these vulnerabilities, while Colonel Torres trained his team in new tactical approaches. When the 6 hours were up, Admiral Chen faced High Commander Lyra again. This time, his calm confidence seemed to slightly unsettle her. "We accept your challenge," he declared. "Earth will not bow to threats, but we are willing to prove our worth." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Very well. Prepare your champions for transport to our arena vessel." "And Admiral?" Her smile was predatory. "Do try to make this interesting. It's been so long since we've had a truly entertaining subjugation." As the transmission ended, Admiral Chen turned to his team. "Remember, they expect us to fight like them, with arrogance and brute force. Show them humanity's true strength lies in our ability to adapt, to think differently, to work together regardless of gender or background." Colonel Torres checked his modified weapons one last time. "Don't worry, sir. We're going to give them a fight they'll never forget." Dr. Parker's systems beeped with new data. The crystalline structure of their ships. "I think I know why they're so confident. Their technology is literally an extension of their biology. They're part crystal themselves. Which means they've never had to think beyond their natural advantages," Majorly concluded. "Another weakness we can exploit." As the transport beam prepared to take Earth's champions to the Valkyrie vessel, Admiral Chen felt a surge of pride. The Valkyries thought they were testing humanity's worth. Instead, they were about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating Earth's sons and daughters. "Good luck," he told the team. "Show them what humanity is truly capable of." The champions vanished in a flash of light, beginning humanity's greatest test. But unknown to the Valkyries, their challenge had already set in motion events that would change both civilizations forever. Their pride was about to meet humanity's greatest strength, the power to unite and overcome any obstacle, regardless of gender or origin. The first battle in this war wouldn't be won with weapons or technology, but with something the Valkyries had forgotten long ago: the strength that comes from diversity, cooperation, and the indomitable human spirit. Would you like me to continue with part 2? This opening part establishes our unique characters and situation while maintaining the requested themes of human ingenuity and resilience, without copying the previous story's elements. Breaking expectations. The Valkyrie Arena ship was a marvel of crystalline architecture, its transparent walls reflecting rainbow light patterns across the polished floor. Colonel Torres and his team materialized in a vast chamber where dozens of Valkyrie warriors awaited, their expressions ranging from amusement to outright contempt. High Commander Lyra stood on a raised platform, her armor now even more impressive up close. "Welcome to the Crucible," she announced. "Here, we will determine if your species deserves to exist as more than our servants." Dr. Parker immediately began scanning with concealed instruments, while Majorly observed the chamber's defensive systems. The Valkyrie warriors were tall and powerful, their crystalline-infused bodies gleaming with internal energy. But something about their uniform stance caught Colonel Torres' attention. They all moved exactly the same way. "Your first trial begins now," Lyra declared. "Face our junior warriors in single combat. Prove you can at least provide basic entertainment." 3 Valkyrie warriors stepped forward, each easily 7 feet tall. They moved with liquid grace, their crystalline weapons humming with power. Colonel Torres nodded to his team members, Captain Sarah Rodriguez, Lieutenant James Wilson, and Dr. Parker herself. The first Valkyrie charged at Rodriguez, expecting an easy victory. Instead, the captain used her smaller size to her advantage, ducking under the warrior's swing and using a modified judo throw that sent the surprised alien crashing to the ground. The Valkyrie's crystalline armor, while incredibly strong, proved rigid and inflexible. "Their weakness isn't in their strength," Rodriguez called out, "it's in their inability to adapt." Wilson faced his opponent with quiet focus. The Valkyrie warrior unleashed a devastating series of attacks, but Wilson's boxing background allowed him to weave and dodge, conserving energy while the Valkyrie's movements became increasingly predictable. Dr. Parker's match proved the most surprising. Rather than engaging in direct combat, she activated a sonic device that created specific frequencies. The Valkyrie warrior staggered, her crystalline components resonating uncomfortably. Fascinating, Parker muttered, adjusting frequencies. Their biological crystal integration makes them vulnerable to harmonic disruption. The watching Valkyries stirred uneasily as their champions struggled. High Commander Lyra's expression darkened. Enough. These were mere warm-ups. Now face true warriors. 5 elite Valkyries stepped forward, their armor crackling with energy. But now the Earth team had vital combat data. Majorly quickly distributed modified shields, calibrated to the Valkyries' energy frequencies. Remember, Torres advised his team, they fight like they think rigid and predictable. Use that against them. The battle that followed was unlike anything either side expected. The humans moved with fluid, unpredictable patterns, switching tactics and adapting moment by moment. When one approach failed, they immediately tried another. The Valkyries, for all their power and advanced technology, couldn't adjust to the constant changes. Dr. Parker's sonic discoveries proved crucial. Working with Major Lee, she created interference patterns that disrupted the Valkyries' energy weapons. Captain Rodriguez and Lieutenant Wilson demonstrated the effectiveness of Earth's diverse martial arts, using techniques the Valkyries had never encountered. High Commander Lyra watched with growing concern as her warriors were systematically outmaneuvered. The humans weren't winning through superior strength or technology, but through innovation and teamwork. Stop, she finally commanded. This is not possible. You are using forbidden techniques. Colonel Torres stood tall. We're using human techniques, Commander. Our strength comes from diversity, from learning from each other, from constantly adapting and evolving. A younger Valkyrie warrior, Kara, stepped forward. High Commander, they fight differently from any species we've encountered. Perhaps we should. Silence. Lyra snapped. They are primitives. This changes nothing. But her voice held a note of uncertainty. Dr. Parker approached cautiously. Your crystalline biology is remarkable, she offered. The potential for advancement through combining our different approaches. You dare suggest we could learn from you? Lyra's voice was dangerous, but other Valkyries were listening intently. Major Lee spoke up. Every species has strengths and weaknesses. The truly advanced learn from others instead of dismissing them. The chamber erupted in discussion as more Valkyries began questioning their assumptions. Kara and several others moved closer to the humans, clearly fascinated by their tactics. This trial is suspended, Lyra announced. Return to your holding cells while we evaluate your performance. As they were led away, Colonel Torres noticed something significant. Their guards were no longer looking at them with contempt, but with curiosity. In their assigned quarters, the team gathered to plan. We've shaken their confidence, Torres observed. But Lyra won't accept change easily. The younger ones might be different, Rodriguez suggested. Did you see how they reacted when we demonstrated adaptive tactics? Dr. Parker was excited about another discovery. Their crystalline nature isn't just physical, it's affected their entire society. They've become as rigid as the crystals they've integrated with. But some of them are starting to see the flaws in that approach. Major Lee nodded. We're not just fighting warriors now, we're challenging their entire worldview. That's why Lyra is so resistant. Then we need to show them a better way, Torres decided. Not by defeating them, but by proving that true strength comes from diversity and adaptation. The team spent hours preparing for the next trial, but they knew the real challenge wasn't just about combat prowess. They were fighting to change minds, to break through centuries of crystallized thinking. As they rested, they could hear heated discussions among their guards. The seeds of change had been planted. The question was, would the Valkyrie Dominion choose to evolve, or would pride drive them to desperate measures? The next trial would be crucial, not just for Earth's fate, but for the future of both civilizations. The team knew they needed to walk a fine line, demonstrate humanity's strength while offering the Valkyries a path to transformation that wouldn't shatter their society. As they prepared for sleep, Colonel Torres shared a final thought with his team. Tomorrow, we don't just fight for Earth. We fight to show them a better way, one where strength comes from unity, not uniformity. The chamber's crystalline walls seemed to pulse with energy, as if the ship itself was wrestling with the changes beginning to stir within the Valkyrie Dominion. The true battle was just beginning. Would you like me to continue with Part 3? This section develops our core themes while building tension and showing the first cracks in the Valkyrie's rigid worldview. The seeds of change. Dawn aboard the Valkyrie vessel brought an unexpected announcement. Instead of combat trials, High Commander Lyra declared a day of cultural assessment. The Earth team would face challenges testing their problem-solving abilities, technological understanding, and social dynamics. Perhaps, Lyra announced, her voice dripping with condescension, we should understand just how primitive your species truly is before proceeding with combat trials. The first challenge took place in a vast simulation chamber. The walls shimmered and transformed into a complex technological landscape. Dr. Parker's eyes lit up as she studied the crystalline machinery surrounding them. Your task, Lyra explained, is to repair a quantum resonance engine. Our junior engineers require 3 days for this task. Let's see how long you primitives take to even understand the problem. Dr. Parker stepped forward, her mind already racing. She had noticed something about the Valkyrie technology. Its crystalline nature made it incredibly efficient but also remarkably inflexible. Working with Majorly, she began to approach the problem from multiple angles. Look here, she pointed out to her team. Their system is perfectly organized, but that's actually a weakness. There's no redundancy, no adaptation capability. While the Valkyries watched with skeptical amusement, the Earth team demonstrated something unprecedented, collaborative problem-solving. Colonel Torres provided tactical insights about system vulnerabilities, Captain Rodriguez spotted patterns in the energy flow, and Lieutenant Wilson's engineering background proved invaluable. Within 4 hours, they had not only repaired the engine but had improved its efficiency by 15%. The Valkyrie engineers were stunned. Impossible, one whispered. They used methods we never considered. Kara, the young Valkyrie who had shown interest earlier, moved closer to study their work. How did you think to reroute the quantum flow in that pattern? Because we're not bound by single solutions, Dr. Parker explained warmly. Human progress comes from trying new approaches, even if they seem unconventional. The next challenge involved diplomatic problem-solving. The team was presented with a holographic scenario involving a conflict between alien species. The Valkyrie solution had been simple: dominate both sides with superior force. Colonel Torres took a different approach. He analyzed the underlying causes of the conflict, identified common ground between the species, and proposed a solution that benefited all parties. His approach left the watching Valkyries confused but intrigued. You had the power to impose your will, one of them argued. Why waste time seeking harmony? Because forced solutions breed resentment, Torres explained. True strength lies in building understanding, not just displaying power. Throughout the day, more Valkyries began gathering to watch the humans work. They were particularly fascinated by how the team constantly communicated, shared ideas, and adapted their approach based on each other's insights. High Commander Lyra observed with growing concern as her warriors showed increasing interest in human methods. During a break between challenges, she confronted Colonel Torres. You're corrupting my people with your chaotic approaches, she accused. Torres met her gaze calmly. We're showing them alternatives, Commander. Change doesn't have to mean destruction, it can lead to growth. The final challenge of the day revealed the deepest difference between the two civilizations. The team was tasked with training a group of new recruits, young Valkyries who had just completed their crystal integration. Instead of the rigid, uniform training the Valkyries expected, each Earth team member worked with their students differently. Rodriguez emphasized adaptability, Wilson focused on innovative thinking, Lee demonstrated technology integration, and Parker encouraged questioning and experimentation. The young Valkyries blossomed under this approach, displaying abilities that surprised even their own instructors. They began moving more fluidly, thinking more creatively, and working together in ways their society had never encouraged. Kara, who had been watching closely all day, finally spoke up in front of her commander. "Hi Commander, I request permission to continue learning from the humans. Their methods, they awakened something in us we didn't know we had." Lyra's expression was thunderous, but she faced a dilemma. More and more of her warriors were showing similar interest. The rigid crystal structure of their society was developing hairline fractures, not breaking, but changing. Dr. Parker, observing the commander's internal struggle, approached carefully. "Commander, did you know that on Earth, some of our most valuable crystals are formed under pressure? Change doesn't weaken them, it makes them more precious." For the first time, something flickered in Lyra's eyes that wasn't anger or contempt. It might have been uncertainty, or perhaps, hope. As the day ended, the Earth team returned to their quarters, victorious in ways they hadn't expected. They hadn't won through force, but by demonstrating a better way. "We're reaching them," Rodriguez observed. "Not all of them, but enough. Tomorrow will be crucial," Torres warned. "Lyra will either embrace change or try to crush it completely," Lee finished grimly. Dr. Parker was working on something new, her fingers flying over her portable computer. "I've been analyzing their crystal integration process. If they were willing to modify it, to allow for more flexibility while maintaining their strength." "One step at a time," Torres cautioned. "First, we need to survive whatever Lyra has planned for tomorrow." That night, they received an unexpected visitor. Kara slipped into their quarters, her crystalline form dimmed to avoid detection. "Others want to talk," she whispered. "To learn. But the High Commander." She hesitated. "She's planning something dangerous. She would rather destroy us all than admit her way might be wrong." The team shared concerned looks. They had shaken the Valkyries' rigid society, but had they pushed too far, too fast? Tomorrow would bring their greatest challenge yet, preventing a proud civilization from shattering under the pressure of change. As they prepared for sleep, each lost in thought, the crystal walls around them seemed to pulse with uncertain energy, as if the ship itself was caught between the old way and the new, between breaking and transforming. Would you like me to continue with part 4? This section deepens the conflict while showing the growing division within Valkyrie society and the impact of human adaptability and cooperation. The Crystal Crucible. The fourth day aboard the Valkyrie vessel dawned with an ominous silence. When High Commander Lyra appeared on the view screens, her crystalline features were set in grim determination. "Today's trial will be definitive," she announced. "No more games, no more cultural exchanges. You will face our elite warriors in the Crystal Crucible, a combat arena that channels our full power. Your primitive adaptability will mean nothing there." As the team was led to the arena, Dr. Parker noticed something alarming. "The crystal resonance frequencies are off the charts," she whispered. "They're channeling enough energy to level a city." The Crystal Crucible lived up to its name. A massive dodecahedron of pure crystal, each face pulsing with energy. The Earth team stood at one end, while 5 of the most imposing Valkyrie warriors they'd seen took position at the other. "These are the pristine," Lyra announced proudly. "Warriors who have achieved perfect crystal integration. No species has ever survived combat with them." Colonel Torres studied their opponents carefully. The pristine were different from other Valkyries, their crystalline forms were so complete they seemed more mineral than biological. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, like facets of a single entity. "Be careful," Kara managed to whisper before being ushered away. "The pristine share a hive mind in combat. They are unstoppable." "Nothing's unstoppable," Torres replied firmly. "Team, remember everything we've learned." The battle began with devastating intensity. The pristine moved as one, their crystal weapons channeling the arena's massive energy. The human team's shields, despite Major Lee's modifications, barely held against the onslaught. But something unexpected happened. As Dr. Parker monitored the energy patterns, she noticed a crucial detail. The crystal resonance, it's not just powering their weapons. It's limiting them. Torres understood immediately. The perfect synchronization that made the pristine so powerful also made them predictable. Their movements, while devastating, followed crystal-clear patterns. "Break formation," he ordered. "Random movements, keep them guessing." The team scattered, each member moving in completely different ways. Rodriguez incorporated dance-like capoeira movements, Wilson used erratic boxing footwork, Lee employed traditional Tai Chi steps, and Parker simply stumbled around while taking readings. The pristine's perfect coordination began to work against them. They couldn't track 4 different movement patterns simultaneously. Their crystalline minds, designed for perfection, struggled with chaos. "Now," Torres commanded. "Sound weapons." Parker activated her sonic disruptors, modified with everything they'd learned about Valkyrie crystal resonance. The pristine's synchronized movements faltered as conflicting frequencies disrupted their shared consciousness. Lee and Rodriguez pressed the advantage, using their smaller size and unpredictable movements to slip past the pristine's defenses. Wilson, drawing on his engineering knowledge, targeted specific crystal formations he recognized as power conduits. But the pristine were far from defeated. They adapted by splitting into smaller groups, their power slightly diminished but still overwhelming. One of them landed a crushing blow on Rodriguez, sending her flying across the arena. "Sarah!" Wilson rushed to help her, leaving himself exposed. A pristine warrior seized the opportunity, crystal blade raised for a killing stroke. Then something remarkable happened. Kara, watching from the sidelines, broke ranks. "This is wrong," she shouted, leaping into the arena. Other young Valkyries followed her, forming a barrier between Wilson and the pristine. "Stand down," Lyra commanded furiously. "This is forbidden." "No." Kara's crystal form pulsed with defiance. "We've seen another way. Strength doesn't have to mean rigid perfection. Look at them, they're stronger because they're different." The arena erupted in chaos. More Valkyries joined Kara's protest, while others moved to support Lyra. The pristine stood frozen, their perfect unity disrupted by confusion. Dr. Parker's voice cut through the chaos. "Commander Lyra. The crystal resonance is becoming unstable. If we don't act now, the whole ship could shatter." The readings on her devices were clear, the emotional turmoil of the Valkyries was affecting the crystal structure of the vessel itself. What had started as a combat trial was becoming an existential crisis for their entire civilization. Torres stepped forward, addressing all present. "Your strength is real," he declared. "But strength without flexibility breaks under pressure. We're not asking you to abandon who you are, we're offering you a chance to become more." Dr. Parker added, "I've studied your crystal integration. With modifications, you could maintain your power while gaining adaptability. Perfect order and perfect chaos both lead to destruction. The true path lies in balance." Lyra stood at a precipice, both literally and figuratively. Her civilization's future hung in the balance. The crystal chamber groaned with building pressure as she wrestled with everything she'd believed. Finally, she spoke. "End simulation. Power down the crucible." As the crystal energies faded, Lyra descended to the arena floor. She looked different somehow, her rigid posture slightly softened, her crystalline features less sharp. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "we have been perfect for so long, we forgot how to grow." She turned to Torres. "Your species is chaotic, unpredictable, and completely baffling." A pause. "And we need what you can teach us." Kara and her followers broke into relieved smiles. The older Valkyries looked uncertain but thoughtful. Even the pristine seemed to be contemplating change, their perfect formation relaxing slightly. "So," Torres said carefully, "does this mean Earth passes your test?" Lyra actually laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "The test became meaningless the moment you showed us our own limitations. We came to judge your civilization, but instead, you've given us a chance to save ours." Dr. Parker was already excitedly discussing crystal integration modifications with interested Valkyries. Major Lee and Captain Rodriguez were demonstrating fluid combat movements to amazed warriors. Lieutenant Wilson and Kara were deep in conversation about combining human and Valkyrie engineering principles. As the tension of battle faded into the excitement of collaboration, Colonel Torres allowed himself to relax slightly. They had achieved something far greater than victory in combat. They had sparked evolution in a stagnant civilization. But their work was far from over. Changing an entire society's beliefs wouldn't happen overnight. There would be resistance, setbacks, and challenges ahead. Looking at the mixture of humans and Valkyries already working together, however, Torres felt confident about the future. Sometimes the strongest crystals were those that formed not in rigid perfection, but in the beautiful chaos of change. Evolution's dawn. 1 month after the events in the Crystal Crucible, Earth's orbital space was transformed. The Valkyrie vessel, once a symbol of intimidation, had become a center of unprecedented cooperation. The ship's crystal structure itself had been modified under Dr. Parker's guidance, its rigid patterns now incorporating flowing, organic elements that reflected the changing society within. High Commander Lyra stood on the observation deck, watching Earth rotate below. Colonel Torres joined her, noting how her crystalline form now contained swirls of more flexible patterns. "The Council of Matriarchs has finally responded to our reports," she said, her voice carrying both relief and apprehension. "They're intrigued." "Intrigued is better than outraged," Torres offered with a smile. "They're sending a delegation to observe our experiments." Lyra turned to face him. "Some still believe we've gone mad, allowing our perfect society to be corrupted by chaos." Below them in the main laboratory, Dr. Parker was working with a team of Valkyrie scientists, including Kara. They had made breakthrough after breakthrough, creating a new form of crystal integration that maintained the Valkyrie's strength while allowing for greater flexibility and individual expression. "Look at this," Parker exclaimed, pointing to a holographic display. "By introducing controlled imperfections into the crystal matrix, we've increased its adaptive capacity by 300% without sacrificing structural integrity." Kara, whose own crystalline form now shimmered with unique patterns, nodded enthusiastically. "It's like learning to dance after standing still for 1,000 years. Major Lee and Captain Rodriguez had transformed the combat training facilities. Valkyrie warriors now practiced alongside humans, combining their crystalline power with fluid human martial arts. The sight of perfectly ordered crystal warriors attempting capoeira moves had become surprisingly common. Lieutenant Wilson had found his niche working with young Valkyries in the engineering section. Together, they were developing hybrid technologies that merged crystal efficiency with human innovation. Their latest project was a revolutionary propulsion system that adapted to space conditions in real time. But not everyone embraced the changes. A group of traditionalist Valkyries, led by First Pristine Vora, watched these developments with growing alarm. They maintained their rigid crystal forms and kept to their old ways, convinced that any deviation from perfection was a step toward destruction. The tension came to a head when the Matriarch's delegation arrived. 3 ancient Valkyries, their crystalline forms so pure they were almost transparent, materialized in the main chamber. Their arrival brought all activity to a halt. High Commander Lyra, the lead matriarch, spoke, her voice resonating through the crystal walls. "Explain how you have allowed our perfect society to fall into such disorder." Before Lyra could respond, Dr. Parker stepped forward. "If I may, honored matriarchs, I'd like to show you something." To everyone's shock, the human scientist approached the ancient Valkyries without ceremony. She activated a holographic display showing the evolution of crystal structures on Earth. "In nature, perfect crystals are rare and often fragile," she explained. "The strongest crystals are those that incorporate and adapt to imperfections. They become more resilient, more beautiful, and more useful." The matriarchs watched in silence as Parker demonstrated how their modified crystal integration worked. Kara and several other young Valkyries stepped forward, their new forms showing both strength and adaptability. "We haven't abandoned our nature," Kara declared. "We've evolved it. Watch." The young Valkyries performed a demonstration that left even the traditionalists speechless. They moved in perfect unison like the pristine, then smoothly broke into individual patterns, before reforming in new configurations. Their crystal forms flowed like liquid metal while maintaining their fundamental strength. "Impossible," whispered one of the matriarchs. But her voice held wonder rather than condemnation. First Pristine Vora stepped forward in challenge. "This is blasphemy. We cannot abandon 10,000 years of perfection for these primitive innovations." "Then face us," Kara replied calmly. "Not in combat, but in adaptation. Show us which approach better serves our people's future." What followed was not a battle, but a demonstration. The traditionalists performed their perfect but predictable patterns, while Kara's group showed how their modified forms could achieve the same results in countless different ways. The deciding moment came when the ship encountered an unexpected spatial anomaly. The rigid crystal sections of the vessel began to strain, but the modified sections adapted smoothly, strengthening the entire structure. "You see?" Dr. Parker explained excitedly. "Perfect order is vulnerable to chaos. But adaptive order can survive anything." The lead matriarch raised her hand for silence. Her ancient eyes studied the humans and modified Valkyries before her. Finally, she spoke. "For 10 millennia, we have prided ourselves on achieving perfection. We thought ourselves the pinnacle of evolution." She paused, her crystal form shifting slightly. "But true perfection, we now see, lies in the ability to grow, to change, to become more than we are." The announcement that followed would reshape both civilizations. The Valkyrie Dominion would not only spare Earth but establish a permanent cultural exchange. Human adaptability and innovation would help their society evolve, while Valkyrie technology and discipline would advance human development. As the formal ceremonies concluded, Colonel Torres found himself again standing with Lyra on the observation deck. Earth glowed below them, while crystal ships of the Dominion glittered above. "So," he said, "still think we're primitive?" Lyra's crystalline features softened into a smile. "Primitive? No. Chaotic, unpredictable, and completely essential to our future?" "Absolutely." Dr. Parker rushed in, barely containing her excitement. "Commander, we've just discovered how to use crystal resonance for instantaneous communication across light years. The implications for both our civilizations." "Doctor," Lyra interrupted fondly, "perhaps we should take one evolution at a time?" As they laughed together, the ship's crystal walls pulsed with new patterns of possibility. The rigid perfection of the past had given way to something far more valuable, the strength to change, the wisdom to adapt, and the courage to evolve. On Earth, the news of humanity's success spread rapidly. They had faced extinction and instead found transformation. The feared Valkyrie invasion had become a partnership that would launch both civilizations into a new era. The stars above now held not threat but promise. Humanity had proven itself not by dominating a powerful alien race, but by showing them a better way. It was a victory not of weapons or technology, but of the fundamental human qualities of adaptability, innovation, and the courage to reach across differences to forge something new. As the first mixed crews of humans and Valkyries prepared to explore the galaxy together, they carried with them a profound truth: true strength lies not in rigid perfection, but in the beautiful complexity of change.